We'll just hear from Judith Sloan.
But, you know, I guess the thing is, it is hard to master the system. And we have a private system here, Joe. You know, primary health care in this country is private, okay? There are co-payments all over the place at the moment, right? So, you know, there are quite a high proportion of GPs who don't charge co-payments. There are plenty that do. The system doesn't actually collapse in the context of co-payments. You have to pay a co-payment for the government subsidised pharmaceutical scheme. You almost inevitably pay a co-payment if you have to go and see a specialist doctor.
But Judith, can I remind you of your own recent article in which you said that the co-payments should not be charged to concession holders. In other words, you think they have actually made it too targeted on poorer people.
Yeah, I mean, look, I agree with Ross here. I think there were too many moving parts in this budget, and it's kind of, I think, put the progress of structural reform slightly back. I would have taken the university stuff completely out of the budget. But even with this, there are a whole lot of moving parts with the co-payment. What I would have done initially, and there are some very good socialised medical systems around the world, New Zealand, France, Sweden, they all have co-payments and they don't implode. But what I would have done is made it much simpler and imposed co-payments initially on those who don't hold concession cards. Admittedly, a large proportion of the population does, but let's see how we go.
And the reason for that is because you think that poorer people will suffer as a result?
Well, but also as a sort of experiment to see whether it is actually true that the demand for accessing primary health care does fall off dramatically. I think you'll find it doesn't. And then there could be some tweaking down the road. I think the thing is, look, I think economists are pretty boring people. They always say, because they're mainly men, that economist is someone who'd marry Elle Macpherson for her money. But look, you know, we really are into experiments and to trial things. And so I think particularly with structural reform, particularly where there are always distributional impacts, where there are often unintended consequences, I think it's better to kind of, you know, trial these things at the margin before you go into
briefly, because I did read your article, you also believe the government made a fundamental error in saying the money was going to go to a fund rather than back into the budget.
Well, I guess that's one of my bigger points about the budget too, is that there's too many mixed messages. I actually think people will sign up to the fact that we have to tighten our belt, we have to reduce the deficit. But when the co-payment was going into what, look, dare I say the term, some sort of big medical research slush fund, I think people kind of got a mixed message. And I think you see that also with the $22 billion that they're allocating over the 4 years to the paid parental leave scheme, you know. So they're kind of pulling back on welfare payments in other areas, and yet they're going for the Rolls-Royce of the paid parental leave scheme. So I think it's not just that I disagree with some of those measures, it's also, I think, the messaging, and Ross is an expert in this, in how you kind of sell.
Well, let's quickly hear from Ross Garner. And if you make your answer brief, because we've got quite a lot of questions.
Yeah, the big thing missing from our health system is more focus on preventive investment to stop people getting really sick. And obviously the budget measures have to go back to the drawing board. They don't look like getting through the Senate. When you're looking at structural reform a second time, I think the government should be looking at how you get real investment in preventive medicine to reduce the costs in the longer term future.
Okay.